Well, good morning, Ootsy friends. How are you today? Is it still cold in your area? It is still cold here. Very cold. We still have lots of snow. We are told that it's supposed to get warmer this coming week, but then next weekend it is supposed to be frigidly cold. They say the Arctic blast is coming in. So, and they say it's across the entire United States. So Oklahoma isn't the only one that's going to get it. And so we're going to enjoy this next week of the snow melting and then prepare for next weekend. So I'm going to make sure I've got all the things I need in my pantry to do all the cooking that I'm going to do. I'm going to sit down and kind of decide the foods that I'm going to make so that I can get out this week while it is warm and get everything I need for my pantry. But today is January the 11th. Tomorrow is my son's birthday, and I always like to do a special meal for my son, my daughter-in-law, and my grandkids. So they are here in our town today showing go. I said this will be a perfect time for me to fix his birthday supper. Only two of the grand blessings are going to get to be here. The bigger kids, they've got other things to do and places to go, people to see, all the things, you know. So they're not going to be here, so it's only going to be four of them here and then my husband and I. So I'm going to fix all of my son's favorite things. And I'm first starting out with an apple pie. And this was, I call it the Mother Barney apple pie. She taught me how to make this. There were no measurements, so it's just by feel. The first thing I'm going to do though is make my pie crust, and I do have a recipe for that, and I will include that in the video. Okay, I'm first starting out with 1 1/3 cup of shortening is what the recipe calls for. You can use Crisco. I am using beef tallow. A lot of times I will use lard, and that's what my mother-in-law always used. But I rendered some beef tallow a couple weeks ago, so that's what I'm going to use for in place of the shortening. I have 3 cups of sifted all-purpose flour. Along with that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to add 1 egg that I have beaten already. Then I have 5 tablespoons of cold water and 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. Okay, now I'm just going to take my pastry knife and just start mixing this all together. To get my pie dough consistency. Now that I've got this sort of mixed, kind of a crumble, it really seems to work best just to get my hands in there, my clean hands. Make sure your hands are clean. And just work that all together. It's kind of like kneading bread in a way, but that's the way that I have found for this to really get all mixed together. Now that I have my pie dough all mixed together, I'm ready to roll it out, and I'm using the Mother Barney rolling pin. So I've got a good handful, 2 handfuls of pie dough that I'm going to use for the first layer of our pie. I remember one year in our early years of marriage when I was learning how to make pies, and my mother-in-law made wonderful pies. And I always wanted to make pies like her. I was rolling out my pie dough and it just was not coming out. It wouldn't stay together. I was just frustrated and almost in tears. So I called her and told her I just was so frustrated because I couldn't get my pie dough to come out right. And she lived about 5 miles from us. And let me tell you, she was the sweetest lady. She said, "I'll be right there." So she jumped in her car and came to my house and worked on my pie crust until it came out right. And I will never forget that. Now I want to make sure that it's wide enough to go around my pie pan. And I'm just going to roll this in half. Then I'm going to roll that in half. You just have to be gentle with it. Then I'm going to lay it in the quarter part of the pie pan. Flip it back over. And back over again, and I just ripped it. It doesn't matter. So here's what you can do. It's not pretty, but you just kind of start working that together until it's all together. Now, right here, there's a little bit that broke off. So I've got too much right here. So I'm just going to break that off and work that in to the rest of that pie crust. You will never know. It just comes out just fine. Okay, so I have chopped up some green apples. It's got a little bit of juice in it. I had purchased these and didn't use them right off, and so I just went on ahead and cut them up and put them in the freezer. This is not quite enough for my pie. I think this was probably 4 apples of green apples, and it just isn't enough to fill up. So I had 3 Fuji apples in my refrigerator that I really needed to get used up, and so I'm just going to add those in with the pie and the other apples. I'm going to take some sugar. I've got about 3/4 cup of sugar in here. I don't know that I'm going to use it all. I just sprinkle it around, and this is how Mother Barney taught me to make this pie, just by feel. So I sprinkle that all around. Let's see here, there's about 1/4 cup left in here. So I used about 1/2 cup of sugar. Then I'm gonna take some Karo syrup, and I have no idea how much this is. I'm just gonna swirl this all around the pie. Now I'm going to take some flour, and this is about 1 cup of flour, and I know I'm not going to use all of that. It's got to have something to thicken up the juices from the fruit. Okay, looks like I used about 1/4 cup. Now I'm going to take some Red Hots and just sprinkle that all around the pie. Now my son, he likes lots of Red Hots, and when he gives me the grade on my pie, it seems like every time he says it needs more red hots. And I tell him, Grandma Barney did not put that many red hots in her pie. And he says, I like the red hots. So, I put extra red hots in my son's apple pie. Now I'm going to just drop some little squares of butter all around. And I really feel like I need just a little bit more flour. I really do. There's quite a bit of juices in there. Just sprinkle just a little bit more flour so that it won't be real runny and it'll thicken up. Now we're going to put our top crust on. Okay, now that I've got my top crust on there, I'm just going to go around and use those same flutes that I used on the bottom crust to make my edge. My mother-in-law would take this pie to church functions, family reunions, different things like that, and everybody would fight over getting a piece of her pie. So I thought this would be a good honor for her to put my pie on, or put her pie on my page. We need to put a few slits, just like so, so that the pie will have some, oh goodness. Okay, that wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. Adapt and overcome, right? So we're just gonna have these few slots in it. Some people make their top crust real pretty with the lattice or designs, or you can cut out little shapes. I don't even mess with that. So here is the top crust. Now I'm going to do an egg wash over the whole pie. This is how you do an egg wash. You just take an egg, you beat it up, and you take your pastry brush and just paint it all over the top of your pie. This makes it that brown or that golden yummy crust. You can also use butter. I have seen where they've used butter before, but I like the way the egg wash does. So I'm just going to sprinkle just a little bit. It's going to give it, and then some cinnamon, just a little bit. Now I use one of these. It is very well used, has stains on it. I set my pie on this, and any juices that would bubble over is going to go in this and not in my oven. And we're ready to go in the oven. I've got 350 for, I'm going to say about an hour and 15 minutes is usually what I bake it for. So we'll come back and show you what it looks like when we get it out of the oven. So we're ready to get started on our next item that is going to be on our menu for this evening. And this is going to be a little bit different than maybe some have seen before. But it is yummy, let me tell you. And my family loves it. My grandkids fight over it. Whenever there's leftovers, right there, there's a fight between him and the second to the youngest grandson as to who gets the leftovers. So the second to the youngest grandson and the youngest grandson will be here for supper. So I know that there's going to be a fight for the leftovers. And just between you and me, Gigi always makes sure the grandson takes it home. Okay, so here's what is in this salad. It's called a cheese salad. And the first thing we're starting out with is a small can of crushed pineapple. I've already put that in there. And I'm heating it up. I'm going to add to that one small box of lemon gelatin. Make sure it's gelatin and not pudding. I messed up one time and did Jell-O without paying attention to what I grabbed. Or I did pudding instead of Jell-O, and it didn't turn out. And here's another thing that I learned. I made this at Christmas time when the gang was here. I grabbed, whenever I was at the Walmart neighborhood market, I grabbed 2 packages of gelatin, Great Value brand. I made my Jell-O salad just like I always do. My first batch, and it didn't set up. And I thought, I wonder what's the deal there. So I made a second batch. I threw that away because it was not setting up. The Jell-O would not set up. I made a second batch, again, using Great Value, and it didn't set up. I have always used Best Choice, but because I had ran into the neighborhood market to get a few things, I just grabbed a couple of boxes of Great Value, and that was a mistake because I learned a lesson there that you have to, that you can't use Great Value gelatin because it just did not work. It just did not set up. So I went back to my old favorite of Best Choice. So we've got a small can of crushed pineapple. We have a 3-ounce box of lemon Jell-O and a 1/4 cup of sugar. And we're going to dissolve all of that. Now that that is dissolved, I'm going to take it off of the heat. I'm going to transfer it to a bowl. And I'm going to add 1 cup of water. I will put this in the refrigerator, and then when it starts to set up, we'll pull it out of the refrigerator and add the next few ingredients. Now that our Jell-O has started to set up on our Jell-O salad, we are going to start adding the other 3 ingredients. Now, I know you may think this sounds kind of gross, but it is not. It is delicious. So to our Jell-O mixture, we have our Jell-O that has set up. We're going to add 1 container of Cool Whip, 1 cup of grated cheese, a 1/2 cup of pecans. I use a little bit more because I like a lot of pecans. Then you just stir that all together. And let me tell you, this is delicious. So I'll cover it and put it back in the refrigerator, let it finish setting up, and it'll be perfect come supper time. One of the side dishes that I'm going to make for supper this evening is going to be easy macaroni and cheese. And the youngest grandson loves macaroni and cheese. As a matter of fact, he got bored at the stock show and they brought him here to spend the afternoon with me. So he is here visiting. So this is how I make my easy macaroni and cheese. I'm going to add the pasta to the water. Okay, now that our macaroni has cooked good, I'm going to add Velveeta. And like I said, this is so easy. I'm also going to add a little bit of milk just to keep it from drying out. And we'll just let the macaroni simmer and that cheese melt. And now I'm ready to start my chicken fried steak. And I've got my corn going, my mashed potatoes going, and my macaroni and cheese going. And now I'll get started on the chicken fried steak. And all I do on my chicken fries, I just dip it in milk, then in flour, and then put it into my hot grease. I do nothing else to it. Now you can add other things to your flour mixture, your milk mixture if you want to, but I don't. This is what works for me. You can use buttermilk if you prefer. Now, of course, I don't cook like this all the time. This is just for a special occasion. So we've got quite a bit of food tonight. And so, just so you know, I don't generally cook big like this. But I am going to just salt and pepper my steaks. These do not take very long at all to fry. Potatoes are boiling, and I will get those mashed, and then the kids should be here. We did stop for a little bit and go watch the One Grand Blessing show goats. When I do a large batch of potatoes, I use my big mixer. So I'm just adding some butter, some milk, salt, pepper, and if you saw one of my previous videos, I like to put sour cream in my mashed potatoes. So I'm going to add some sour cream. Okay, now I'm ready to put my gravy together. And I've just got the leftover oil from my steaks. I add flour to the oil. I'm just thickening this up over heat. I've just added some milk. I like to leave the cracklings in there. Okay, so that's our meal for this evening. We have chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes and gravy, macaroni and cheese, corn, cheese salad, French bread. Like I said, I don't normally cook like this, but for this special occasion, we are doing that. So I hope you enjoyed this. Be sure and fix something good for supper and enjoy your meal. Bon appetit.